What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Draconic Evolution. Today, guys, we are going to be discussing dislocation, which is a different way of saying teleportation. Now, this is the method that Draconic Evolution uses to allow the user to get around, and there's a lot of different ways that it actually allows that. So we're going to be going over a couple of the disposable methods, some of the permanent stationary methods, which would be things like portals, which they actually allow you to make, along with some pedestals. And along with that, I will be briefly discussing something that we can't actually show in game today, which is a permanent fuel-based teleportation thing that's handheld. So we're going to cover all of that stuff, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to get around in a world. Now, I do think there are different ways to go about teleporting that are more effective than this if you use other mods, but I would definitely prefer this to the mechanism version of teleporting, and hopefully you guys will agree with me after the fact. So, the first thing we're going to do is go into our Draconic Evolution, basically our manual, and you can scroll down and you see dislocation. Now in here, there's a lot of different things that are listed, and before we actually go through them, I'm going to talk briefly about them. So the dislocator is basically a disposable handheld teleporter that has 10 uses, and then it's gone, so you bind it to a place, use it 10 times, and then you're done. The advanced dislocator, which unfortunately I am having trouble crafting, is the upgraded version, and it will never go away, but you do have to fuel it. Now you fuel it with ender pearls, and it can store numerous different places you can go to. I believe it's 100 different places. You can switch between them, and obviously you can keep it on you at all times and have no issue with it. So it's just the upgraded version. Now it is a little confusing, and I'm not sure why there are issues with it, but it says the mod JustEnoughItems is required for the recipe. Well, I have that, and it still won't show the recipe. I tried to look it up online, and the recipe that's shown online does not work. So I don't know if it's a bug, if it's been changed, or what's kind of going on. But if you have any questions about this, I can answer them in the comments for you guys if you're trying to use this in your world and you can craft it. If not, we will just cover it in a later episode. Now the dislocator pedestal is basically the pedestal that you can place either the regular dislocator or advanced dislocator on, and whatever place it is set to when you set it down on the pedestal is where right clicking on the pedestal will take you, and it basically makes any temporary or fuel based, which would basically be the temporary dislocator or fuel based advanced dislocator, not use up either of those. The only disadvantage is you can't take it with you. So it's a trade-off. You don't use any fuel or durability, but you can't take it with you, so you need one of these wherever you go. Then we have the dislocator receptacle. Now there is a typo here, dislocator receptacle in the actual tab over here, but what this does is it allows you to make a portal that is anywhere from 1 by 1 to 150 by 150 blocks. They look pretty darn cool. They use infused obsidian, and it can teleport you anywhere you have a dislocator set to. It doesn't need to be the permanent one. It can just be the regular dislocator. You can also automate it to switch between places. So you can probably set up a pretty cool way to automatically pull out and insert different dislocators. You can lock dislocators in using redstone, all this cool stuff that we will go over. And lastly, we have the item dislocator, which we're also going to talk about today. And this will basically allow you to pick up items from around you. The first one is 8 blocks, and the awakened one is 32 block range. So pretty darn awesome. We're going to start out, we're going to craft all this stuff, and then we're going to mess around with it and set up a couple of the portals and pedestals. So to make a regular dislocator, it's relatively cheap. It's going to require blaze powder, eye of ender, and some draconium dust. And I guess we can just shift click it in there. We're going to be making 3 of them. They do not stack, and when you get them, they are unbound. So it'll tell you what coordinates it binds to when you end up binding it, obviously X, Y, and Z. And it even keeps the direction you are facing. And it can go across dimensions, which is pretty darn nice, especially if you're playing in a world that uses a bunch of dimensions. If you're on a server that's got the deep dark, mining dimensions, players have different dimensions for RF tools, all that good stuff. These are super useful. And I know, especially with the advanced dislocator, it's actually been considered by most mod packs to be overpowered, and they actually remove it or disable it. So that's something to keep in mind if you actually don't have this available. But for these, we can bind them anywhere we want. And I'm going to wait to bind them right now, but all you do is shift right click and it'll bind your current position. So now that we have those, we're going to do a little bit more crafting, and we are going to be making 2 different pedestals. So the dislocator pedestal is really cheap to make. It requires 2 slabs, any kind you want, 1 blaze powder, a stone, and a stone pressure plate. So we'll make both of those, which of course is what the dislocator is going to sit on. Now, when you do put a dislocator on it, you can also take it right back off. It's not there permanently if you want to mix and match and do all that cool stuff. If you move and you're worried about losing it, you can just put them on and take them off, no issue. Now the next thing we're going to do is start crafting one of the dislocator receptacles. Now to do this, we are going to need to make some infused obsidian, which requires some draconium dust, 4 obsidian, and 4 blaze powder per piece. So it's actually kind of expensive to set up since you're really not getting a 1-to-1 conversion here. But we're going to make 13, and that's because our portal is going to use 12, and then we're going to be using 1 for the dislocator receptacle. And the reason that, of course, the portal would normally use an odd number, but you can disguise the dislocator receptacle with one of these pieces if you don't want to actually be able to see where it is. So what we're going to do now is pull out the stuff to make the core. We'll grab out the rest of this and just finish up crafting. So to make this, we got to have a draconic core. So we'll craft that, not too expensive. And then we can craft this. It just takes 4 iron, the 1 infused obsidian, and then the draconic core, and there we go. So you only need 1 dislocator receptacle per portal, but obviously you're going to need 1 per portal because that is what the dislocator goes in, unless you want to set up just a single portal to wherever you want to go. And I think eventually I might try this, but you can automate it with redstone like I mentioned, where you could flip a switch and you have one big room where there's a bunch of switches and signs, and you just flip one. It'll, pull out the current one with a redstone signal, send another one in with a redstone signal, and swap them out, and then you could just keep on doing that. And I think that'd be pretty darn cool to try and set up. We're not going to do that today because there really aren't that many places that I need to go to, but I will eventually discuss that and go through it. Now, the last thing we're going to be making is the item dislocator, which is going to be just using 2 draconium ingots, 2 redstone, 2 iron, and a dislocator that's unbound. So there we go. We now have everything that we want to mess around with, and we can head over to our Draconic Evolution area. Now, I just got to add, I think this looks so cool. I love looking down here now. It does bother me that there's nothing down there. Maybe we'll think of something to put down there eventually. But it does look pretty darn cool looking down here, and eventually this will get bigger and we'll be able to store more power there. But I'm just really happy with how that turned out. If you guys missed seeing how to set this up, I did a relatively short video on it last episode. But here is where we are going to be setting up the Draconic Evolution stuff. For the most part, we've got our fusion crafting over here, which I still have to continue upgrading to. I believe these are the Wyvern crafting injectors. They all list as basic, but this one should be the Wyvern one. Now back here we've got our thermal evaporation plant, but there will be no issue because the portal for these is completely black. So it looks pretty darn awesome, but we'll set up the portal for now just to fill up this area over here. So what we can do is take and start filling this in. And so we'll put down the infused obsidian. It looks really awesome. It looks like almost molten obsidian. Obviously, that's not what it's supposed to be, but it kind of looks like that. Like there's lava and like rock in there that's hardened. But what we're going to do is I'm going to put the dislocator right here. So we're going to fill in this whole area. Now, of course, it could be any size that you want. We're just going to do it like this because I wanted to be able to see some of the obsidian. Since I think it looks pretty darn cool. And it also helps cover up the blocks that were back there. So we don't want to see those. Now we're going to throw down the dislocator receptacle, and this is ready to go. So if I threw a dislocator in there where we want it to teleport, we would be pretty much set to go in this. But what I'm going to do first is throw down this infused obsidian right here because this does not look good. It wouldn't look as bad if you threw this down. And it of course doesn't need to mesh perfectly. This thing doesn't need to be perfectly square. I'll show you guys in here if we look at this and scroll all the way down. You can see that they are not perfectly square. On the bottom here there's a square one, but there also is one that's kind of got a design to it. But if this was in the center, it wouldn't look as bad. Maybe even a corner wouldn't look as bad. But right now this is going to bother me. So we right click on it. It doesn't even use up the infused obsidian. So if you wanted to, you wouldn't need to make an extra one. You could just break one of these, right click it, and then place it back down. But you can still see that it shows as the dislocator receptacle on our Wala or Walla. I don't know which one we're using right now, but so basically the only other thing we need to do is get a dislocator that's bound to something, right click it in here, and we will be good to go. So what I think we're going to do now is take a little bit of a trip over to the area that's got our 5x ore processing setup going there, along with all of the fuel for our reactor. Now, before we actually do that, I have to do this in the correct order because of how we're going to bind these two different places in the base. Now, one thing that I want to say right now, and I actually fully expect this to happen, is that I will crash when using these teleports. Now, I don't know what it is. It has to be mechanism related because it happened with the mechanism only series that was going on before this, and it was basically when I would teleport over to the processing area, which is over there far away, nothing bad would happen. It'd be perfectly fine, but the minute I teleported back here, even when everything was chunk loaded, I would crash. Now, I don't know what it was loading, if it was issues connecting all the pipes and everything. I hope it's fixed because using even just the mechanism teleporter, there was an issue. I also don't know if it was the teleporter that caused the issue, so maybe we'll have better luck now, but I just want to say that as a forewarning. You know, in case something does happen, there will have to be a cut. But basically what we're going to do is bind this dislocator right in here somewhere. So let's find, how do we want to bind this? There's no really good center block, so let's just do it right here. So it's going to bind where we're looking, so let's look out this way. And we will shift, right click, and boom. Teleporter right here bound to these coordinates, overworld. Everything's good to go. So when we teleport, this is exactly where we will be looking. So we can take this one and we can store it back here. Now I'm also going to take the pedestal and we'll put it down right in here. This is what they look like. They're pretty cool. I'm curious if we can take, if we take this dislocator, we can throw it in here and look really quick, but you right click on there and that's what it looks like. I actually think it looks pretty nice. It's a relatively vibrant color. Everything in this mod seems to be kind of vibrant. But what we can do now is this no longer has durability to it. So, you know, if we're clicking on this, there will be no, you know, uses of the 10 uses that this should have. So if we right click, it brings us out here. It makes a cool little noise, and here we are. We're facing the correct direction and all of that. And then if we shift right click again with an empty hand, it takes it out, and this actually has 20 uses. So these do have 20 uses. The book says 10, but they do have 20. And whenever you use it, it'll obviously get rid of one until they're gone, and then you'll have to remake it. So I would suggest, if you're going to be using this kind of dislocator, that you put it onto a pedestal. Now, of course, this one is not the one we want on that pedestal. We want this one, which will eventually be bound to our processing area. So what I think I'm going to do is head over to the processing area right now. I'm going to cut, just because it's a slightly lengthy trip to get over there. We'll bind one there, and then we'll be able to teleport back here and back and forth as much as we want. So I will see you guys once we are over there. Okay guys, so we have arrived over here at the processing area. I don't really get to show this area awful lot, but it's probably my proudest area. It also has some of the worst FPS that I think I get on the entire world, and that's why it got moved over here, because this combined with the poor FPS in the base, it was just atrocious. It was horrible. And as you can see, it's because there's so much stuff going on over here, including multi-block structures. Now, don't ever ask me why I use solar generators. I don't know why, because they don't work at night. That's one big problem, but this whole thing should function perfectly fine. But that's not what we're going to be talking about right now. That's mechanism stuff that is behind us. We are now here to set up the pedestal. So when we teleport over here, you can actually see I have, this is not an enrichment chamber. This is actually a teleporter right here for mechanism that I had issues with. So we're hoping this one works better. So we're going to throw it on the pedestal, and we want to teleport when we're over here, right here. So we're going to get right in the direction that we want to look. Let's look right ahead of us. And we will shift, right click, and now this one's bound here. So we've got the one bound to home, we've got the one bound to over here. So what we're gonna do is take the one that's bound to home, and we're gonna, oh no, I used up a durability on it. I missed the right click. Okay, that's really bad. Well, that's actually not that bad, but that's unfortunate. There really won't be any issue. I would have preferred to not have a green bar below it, but you guys now get to see what happens. It now has 19 uses left, and that's what happens when you right click with it. But now we'll just have to go in a different order. We'll pretend that didn't happen. We now still have all of them bound to where they need to be. So what we're going to do is we are going to come over here and go to the dislocator receptacle, and we're going to throw in this dislocator, which is going to bring us back over to the other side. And we're going to right click it, and boom, it is just completely black. So this actually is relatively ominous looking. There's no texture to it. I don't think there are any particles. I have particle effects turned off right now, but there don't seem to be any particle effects. So it's just walking into the void. But this will take us right over there. So we do have the option then to take this and right click on it. Shift right click? Right click. Can we even get to this? I'm trying to access the block, because the portal block is in the way. So let's try breaking this right here. and there we go. Okay, so that's how you have to take it out. It's a little bit awkward because once you put it in, you can't really click on it because it's a full block up here, but if we wanted to, then we could take it and we could throw it in this over here, and then if we want to take it out, we can shift right click and we could throw it back in over here. And so eventually I'll have a whole area in here that'll be labeled for where things are going to go, where they'll take us. If we have enough places, we could have one to our nether portal, or actually into the nether, because we do have our wither farm there. Actually, that's a great place for us to set one up. I will end up setting that up off camera when, I have to constantly go back and forth between the wither farm, the wither killer, all of that good stuff. So we'll have a bunch of those teleporters going on around here, just because I want to make good use of all of these. But this one is our main one, and this is going to take us back to where we need to go. So we just walk through, very ominous, and it brings us there. There's no wait time. Like when you're teleporting into the nether, it is instant teleportation. Again, it's really, really useful. I really like the way that is. You can make really cool looking ones. You can make them fit basically any base that you want to. So I do think that that is one of the big reasons that you would want to use stuff like this. I don't really think the temporary use dislocators are very useful on their own. They just kind of serve a purpose when you combine them with the rest of the stuff. So then we're going to throw this one down right here, and it should have no issue having its uses on it. So we're going to right click on it, and boom, we are back at the base. And then boom, we're back over there, and then back at the base, and we're not using up any of the uses on this because they are all now put in stationary things. So if we want to go check, we can go back through, we can shift right click to take this off, and if we look, this one is the one that I slightly messed up with, making sure I don't do that again, but it's still at 19 uses. So I think these are pretty awesome. They look great, and yeah, that's gonna probably be it for today, guys. I do apologize that I couldn't show the advanced dislocator off. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments, and if you can get it to work and I'm just being kind of stupid, feel free to let me know. I'm pretty sure I have the most recent Draconic Evolution update, the most recent JustEnoughItems update, so I don't know why I'd be having issues, but I tried the recipe online. I suspected it would be fusion crafting, but when I go into the fusion thing to check the recipes, obviously you can see right here, you can like shift click to get the recipes, and that actually crashes my game. So that's another bug that I would say with Draconic Evolution. A lot of bugs, maybe if the developer ever sees this. I know sometimes the developers of mods have seen my series and fixed bugs, but if you guys want to suggest some of these bugs to them, I will be sure to actually make them known if they are not already known. But if they come across this video and see them, there's some typos, a couple issues with things here and there. Other than that, though, we are still chugging along. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you found it entertaining or informative in any way, please feel free to give it a like, as it does help me out a lot. And I hope you guys are enjoying the second day of daily uploads. Think of it as my Christmas gift to you guys, even though it really isn't putting me out in any way, shape, or form, because I'm enjoying uploading the videos. But yeah, hopefully the audio is still going good for these. I've been tweaking the audio a little bit because, getting home, setting things up again, it got a little bit messed up. But another thing that I want to let you guys know, of course, at the end of the video, because it's not super important, is I am about to put in a new motherboard and CPU in my computer that I'm getting for Christmas. And that was basically, I was like, oh, I want to get something big for Christmas. So I was like, you know what, treat myself to a CPU and new motherboard. So that's kind of my reward for this year on YouTube. So it's going to be an i7-6750 CPU, and then we'll have a 970 graphics card. So there will be no more issues with FPS. Maybe we'll even be able to record 60 FPS video. So hopefully we will be able to. I'd really love to be able to give you guys that, and maybe our mechanism world will run a little bit better. I know people have said that really it's no matter what computer you have, mechanism just tears into it, but we will see. So I thought I'd give you guys that kind of heads up on my personal life. But again, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you all later.